All right. Hey everybody, sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties with audio, but now we're all here and good to go. I'm Christine Mason, and I work with Laura von Stockhausen here at the NSCAA to run our 30 Under 30 program. This is the Mentorship Guidance Hangout. We're just here today with some experts in the field to talk about tips on how to have a successful mentorship. Last year, some of the candidates and mentors mentioned that there maybe wasn't enough guidance given on how to do this, so we brought in Donna Fishter, a leadership coach and team architect, and Celia Slater, co-founder of the Alliance of Women Coaches and the NCAA Women Coaches Academy. All right, Celia, we'll go ahead and start with you. What are the key components to a good mentorship?
Well, I think the key components to a good mentorship are just like any other relationship. It's basically getting to know the people, really great communication, dedication. It's like anything in our lives, anything that we give our time and our energy to, that's what's going to grow. So if you want to have a healthy and growing mentoring relationship, then it's just going to take some of your time, and it's going to take some of your energy. And just like any other relationship, how do you get to know that person? By asking them really good quality questions and advice in key times in your life. I have like a whole list of questions that I'll share a few of those a little bit later that just kind of get to know you questions, and I have a question about the icebreaker piece, so I'll share some of those a little bit later. But quite honestly, I think that the key to a good mentorship is that basic communication, time, and energy. How important is it to you? Is it a high enough value for you to build a relationship with this particular person? My funny story about my mentor, when you talk about mentorship and what's keys to a good one, my funny story is I was really looking hard for a mentor, and I went to this event and they were auctioning off mentors at this auction, and I bought my mentor for $100. So I kind of went up to, you go up to the front of the stage and you pick names out of a bucket. And they had all these past presidents of NACWA up on the stage, and I picked my name out of the bucket, and I got Judy Sweet, who at the time was Senior Vice President of the NCAA for educational programming and championships. And so I think the key, that opened the door for Judy and I to have this incredible mentoring relationship. But I will tell you that a big key for that relationship working was the fact that I took a tremendous amount of initiative to build that relationship. I really made an effort to email Judy, to call her, to stay in touch with her. I didn't bug her. I wasn't like going crazy, but when I had questions that I wanted help with or some support, I would reach out to her, and then I would also ask her some questions just to get to know her. But that was really big, and obviously, and Judy and I came together. We were the ones that really pulled together the ideas, and Judy helped find the funding to get the NCAA Women Coaches Academy off the ground. It really turned out to be a fantastic mentorship, but like I said, she loved it that I drove it because of that reason. But I do think you have to be willing to take that initiative to build that relationship. Because a couple things. What that showed to Judy was that I was really serious about growing, that I was really serious about advancing my career, that it was a high value for me. And as we know, our behaviors will always reflect our highest values. So if I'm really serious about something, my behavior would show that. And I think that's one of the things Judy would say to all of you about me as a mentee, was that my behavior, my enthusiasm, my passion all came through as our mentoring relationship grew. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, thanks for getting us started off there, Celia. Those are some great words. Now over to Donna. What are some of the leadership qualities a mentor should possess as they enter into this relationship?
Yeah, for sure. And this just kind of really piggybacks off of everything that Celia kind of opened us with is, transparency and vulnerability. So a mentor has to be willing to kind of open up their life, so to speak, to a point. You're trying to build trust. There definitely needs to be this trust factor between the mentor and mentee. So to build that, there needs to be a level of vulnerability and taking risks and sharing some stories. So I always encourage mentors, to show their humanity, to maybe share some stories that, the challenges that they've had, or maybe areas where they screwed up in life, or they made some wrong decisions, and then they grew from that. So I think that's leading. That's being a leader, is being transparent. Another quality that I think is very, very important is empowerment. There's, a mentor wants to be the navigator, be a navigator, but don't drive the car. Let the mentee drive the car, and you kind of show the way. So an example would be, if a mentee asks me a question, I'm not necessarily just going to give the answer. I want them to discover. It's part of that, what Celia said, with that initiative, that the mentee discovering on their own, like adding to it and kind of taking control. So as a mentor, I may help them navigate, but I might not necessarily totally give my opinion. I'm just going to ask another question to help them kind of come to the answer themselves. So to me, that being an expert at asking questions is key to empowerment. And then lastly, I would say is connection, which Celia touched on also, is John Maxwell says you have to connect with somebody's heart before they're going to take your hand. And this is in any relationship. It's that connection that we have with that person. It's creating that safety, letting them know that they matter, and that they belong. There's this belonging that happens, and it's okay. It's okay for them to the mentee to share their failures, to be transparent back, and it's going to be a safe place. They're not going to get ridiculed or laughed at, but it's this area of growth. So really connecting, and like Celia said, just getting to know them, and not just in the soccer world or their soccer career, but who they are as a person, because first we're human beings, and then we're the things that we do. So it's the difference between being and doing. So we want to connect in both of those areas.
Great.
And if I don't, can I add to that what Donna just said? I just wanted to, because I think she's made just fabulous points, and I think that's one of the things I've noticed as I've mentored some coaches, is that it's interesting because some of the questions that coaches will want to talk through have a lot to do with just basic nuts and bolts, like how do I move through this career? How do I network? Where do I get the things I need to know? But then there's also things that come up that are a little bit more what I would call juicy. Like, what do I do with this particular parent?
Yeah.
I'm having a real struggle with my administrator. I'm struggling with my head coach. I'm conflicting with him or her philosophically. So there's all these different areas that will come up, and I think all of these questions are appropriate. And as a mentor, I've noticed that you're dealing with people. It's not always about the X's and O's and the structure and the framework, or step 1 to step 2. But like Donna was very well saying, it's so much about the human experience for sure.
Yeah.
Great. So Celia, then to continue, what are some of the best ways to sort of break the ice and get the relationship going from the beginning?
Well, this is, going back to my story with Judy, it's really funny is, after I bought her as my mentor, I went back to my hotel room and I wrote 5 pages of legal pad paper about my life. And I gave them to her the next day. So, and I think that it would be really, to me, I think a great way to break the ice is for, first of all, to exchange like a bullet sheet on each other. Just a little bit about each other's backgrounds. Where did you go to college? How many brothers and sisters do you have? I'm just talking basic stuff that, what's your favorite color? What things that kind of, just to get to know this person on a real, basic level and break the ice. And with some really not too over-the-top vulnerable questions about, why do you coach? What do you love about it? And just sharing your response about the coaching profession overall. And then, how do you build relationship with your athletes? Just questions that just get them talking a little bit about their experience. What's the best advice you've ever been given? Asking your mentor, what's the best advice you've ever been given? And so that's what I think. I think it's a basic introductory sheet that you all can exchange with each other. That's not like over the top detail, but just getting things started. And just, I would come to that first call with some really basic questions to get to know each other. And I have some questions that I could share with Christine, and I'm sure. So anyway, I'd be happy to share some of those questions.
Okay. So Donna, to elaborate on Celia's comments, what are some appropriate topics of discussion? She mentioned several. You've mentioned some. What are some appropriate topics that could carry the conversation?
Yeah. Before I get into that, I'm going to share one question that I always ask people, and it's interesting. The response I always get, it's, "Oh, I've never been asked that before," but I've used this in recruiting. When I was a college coach, recruits would come in on visits, and I would ask this question because you can really start to learn about somebody this way. So the question is, and I stole this from John Maxwell. If you could go to lunch with 3 people, dead or alive, I'm gonna fly you there. I'm gonna bring them back to life. Who would those people be? Okay, and then is there a common question that you would ask all of them? So you really kind of start to find out. Like if I give you mine, you would see that I'm kind of into politics, obviously leadership. So you kind of, and then sometimes it's family members. So then, you can start to ask some follow-up questions, and you really begin to kind of see maybe other areas that people are interested in. And it's always, okay, well, why? Because there's always reasons behind things that people ask. So it's interesting. People have to sometimes think about it, but that's a free one from me. That's a question. So appropriate topics. I think for this mentor-mentee relationship, first is, again, like I said earlier, the mentor talking about challenges that they've had in their career, just as examples, because then the mentee might be like, oh, well, I'm struggling with that right now, and then the mentee on the same side, okay, what are challenges that maybe you're going through immediately, but then what are some things that scare you? Like what are you afraid of happening in the future. You know, so maybe we can talk this out, and you can kind of, it's being proactive, and you can kind of, you know, be ready for it before it happens. So challenges, definitely, hey, what's your dream job, right? So I ask everybody that, you know, well, what's your dream job if you could create it? You know, what's the scenario? What's happening? So then you kind of see the big picture, and then you're working back from that, and the steps that they maybe would need to take. Third, it would be core values and strengths. I'm a huge advocate of knowing what your core values are, understanding what your strengths are, staying, you know, in those strength zones. But then also, we need to, you know, be well-rounded and maybe get better at, you know, different weaknesses that we have. But definitely nailing down what we value in life and what drives us. And I can definitely help Christine. I can help you provide some information to mentors and kind of navigating, helping their mentees figure that out if they don't know. And lastly, I would say, which Celia touched on, is I believe earlier, just other areas where they would need to be educated in. So as a coach, you know, maybe in the mentee in their current position, like they've got a good handle on tactics, X's and O's, but maybe it's they need work in building the relationships. They need work in the mental side of the game, or maybe it's they need help in video analysis and breaking down a game, you know, video-wise. So it's kind of opening up those areas and saying, okay, how can we help you? What other resources, right? So like Celia is saying, you know, the mentee has to take initiative and not just use the mentor, but like, you know, use them as a sounding board, but then take initiative and do your own research and gather stuff from other areas to then help your growth. That's where I would start with that.
Okay.
And you know, can I add to that again?
Of course.
If you don't mind, Donna. Because I love that you talked about core values, and one of the things that we really encourage we do a whole class on values at the Coaches Academy, but the values is kind of emphasized around work values, your professional values. Mm-hmm. I think that's really an important piece for coaches to start figuring out what are their highest values with their job, and it will touch into your core values. But for example, how high of a value is the money that you make? Where do you live? Is it Division 1, 2, 3, NAI, 2-year college, high school? What speaks to you the most? What level? You know, all the different, how important is winning to you?
Yeah.
Do you want to be in a job that you can wear 4 different hats, or do you want to be in a job you only wear 1 hat?
Yeah.
You know, because you know, all the different levels will, you know, pull you. Is a job that allows you to have more of a balance in your life important to you? So, you know, really getting clear and working with this mentor to try to start working through this, and as you're going through your career, you will figure out some of that, because as you have your life experiences, you'll figure out what really is a fit and what isn't a fit for you.
Great. Thanks for the extra comments. So Celia, we've talked a lot about getting started and forming this relationship, icebreakers. Now you've gotten into the relationship, maybe you're a month in. What can you do for that year or beyond that to stay actively engaged with the mentor relationship throughout the time? Because maybe you get started, but how do you continue to stay actively engaged with the relationship?
Well, I know, you know, this was a little old school because this was a while back, but, you know, I know Judy and I, we had scheduled times that we really talked and we stayed connected. So, and then if there was something that came up in between, I simply would email and ask her when would be a good time for us to talk. And as our relationship grew and we, you know, got closer, she was really cool with me calling her at home as well, as opposed to just during the day. But now I feel like one of the things is like this Google Hangout where you can actually see people, Skype, those things. I think that being able to actually see the people is huge. And maybe that's because I'm such a relational person, but I really think it makes a big difference than just having a call. Is it the more that you could see them, the better. The other part is, and I don't know if we can work with Christine, and I think it would be fun that there were certain little activities that were kind of thrown in the mix that the mentors and the mentees could do together. Like maybe one of them is this values clarification. Yeah. Maybe one of them, you know, like we did this work called 3 Buckets, and it's about connection, contribution, and vitality. And just kind of going through that and creating like a mind map. Where are you in contribution? Where are you in your connection? Where are you in vitality in your life? You know, things like that that just really help you get more and more self-awareness, allows the mentor to get to know you even better. And because I think that's the thing. The more they get to know you, the more they'll be able to help you, mentor you, guide you, but also it'll build a relationship because, quite honestly, some mentors become advocates for you and they're going to help you get a job. But not all mentors are advocates. And what I mean by that, not everybody is going to pick up the phone and call somebody for you. Some people just want to be your mentor. They're not always comfortable about doing that. But sometimes their mentor is also your advocate. And that's what we're shooting for. That's the kind of relationship we're hoping to build. It's not only will they mentor you, they'll also be your advocate when you go to get a job. But personally, I think that the more you can be creative and have some activities that you come to that call with, and maybe every call you start the call with questions, at least 2 questions that you have for your mentor. That you want answered, that you come to that call or the Skype with a very important question for you that gets the dialogue started. And then maybe we can work with Christine to also create some other little activities that'll be really easy homework that you could work in between calls. Another thing that I'm currently involved in is called a mastermind group. And in our mastermind group, we always talk about 3 things. We talk about what's going on in our life, so we share what's really going on with us. What are our biggest challenges right now? Then we tell the group what kind of support we would need. How could they help me? And then the last thing I do is I make a commitment of what I'm going to do before our next call. These are my goals before our next call to work through this or whatever particular issue we talk about. So those are some other potential guidelines that you could work with your mentor with. What are the biggest challenges going on? What's going on in your life? What are the biggest challenges? What kind of support would I appreciate? And what kind of commitments would I make to the next call?
Great. And I love your idea about the activities. I think that's something we could easily implement for the group. And this is for both of you. It's sort of a follow-up to talking about staying actively engaged. How important do you feel, and Donna, I'll shoot this to you first, how important do you feel that an in-person contact is, or meeting up in person at least once throughout the relationship?
I definitely think that's key. Relationship is about just that in-person contact, and we have Google Hangout, we have Skype, FaceTime, which technology, it just wows me now with what we can do. But if there's a way that the mentor and mentee can be creative in just maybe you're both going to be in the same city. Last year with my mentee, I happened to be at the Final Four with one of my clients, and she was there recruiting. So we connected, we had coffee. So it's just Then there was another time she was going to be in South Florida, and I was trying to figure out if I could get down there. So it's just being creative and definitely the in-person, like the physical touch. You can put your hand on their shoulder, you can shake their hand. That's key in relationship.
Okay. And Celia, do you have comments on that as well?
I just completely agree. And you know, with the recruiting schedule with soccer, with no dead periods, don't get me started on that. So with soccer, it's kind of like, you know, you're always having opportunities to recruit. There's always events, and I think a lot of that, you know, is just like Donna said, just talking and seeing where your calendars kind of cross over. I mean, if I was within an hour of seeing my mentor on a recruiting trip, I certainly would try to make the effort to get to where they are.
Yes.
And that's I think that's very doable. For me, it would be a 2-hour. You know, if it was within 2 hours, I would make the effort. But
Yeah.
it's all according to your time and if you can make that happen. But I totally agree. Meeting in person would be big.
Okay. And Donna, we've kind of probably touched on this a little bit throughout the conversation, but what should the expectations be? It's probably more specifically of the mentee, but of the mentor as well. Going into the relationship, what should they expect of the other person?
Well, I wrote a couple things down before our call here. You know, I think the expectations of the mentee, like as a mentor, I would expect my mentee to like go for it and jump all in. And I think we've said that most of this call, taking initiative. You know, just in our last tidbit, you know, if you're within 2 hours of your mentor, are you going to make that sacrifice? You know, is it high enough value, using a phrase that Celia used earlier, is this relationship high enough value that I'm going to invest a plane ticket maybe or gas money to get to my mentor to see them? So I think there's definitely this expectation of the mentee kind of going for it and being proactive, not expecting to be spoon-fed at all. You know, again, another John Maxwell thing. If somebody wanted to meet with him, he always said, okay, yeah, 6 a.m. at Starbucks. Okay, if you're willing to go meet with somebody at 6 a.m., okay, you're serious, right? You're serious about the relationship. So that's, as a mentor, that's what I would expect out of my mentee. In addition, I would expect the mentee to, you know, accomplish tasks that I kind of throw their way, to really spend time thinking on their own and doing things and coming up with their own homework, so to speak. I totally agree that at the end of a Skype call, at the end of a phone call, there should be, okay, what am I going, mentee, what are you going to do moving forward? Like, what's your homework? What are you going to accomplish before the next call? So definitely that expectation. And then just in general, that there's going to be a growth mindset, that I'm going to expect my mentee to be comfortable being uncomfortable, kind of lean into the discomfort, and really grow through temporary failings, you know, through things that are maybe scary, different stuff like that. From a mentee's perspective, I would expect my mentor to be committed to the relationship and offer guidance and create availability. You know, and maybe a specialized availability. You know, like I can call them at home. I can text them, and they can be a lifeline for me. Like, it's that type of relationship. but a mutual respect, obviously, at the same time. But, you know, I have to know as a mentee that my mentor is for me and that they're continuing to tell me that all the time, and that we're on the same team, and we're trying to just kind of get me to live at full capacity and grow.
Okay. And this one's a little bit more specific. This is a question we've gotten previously from candidates, but how often should they communicate? We are definitely talking about a lot of good communication components here, but how often should they communicate? Celia?
Does the relationship last for a year? How long does this relationship last?
It's a 1-year commitment.
Commitment. Okay. So I think that to know that you have something set for once a month, I mean, given everybody's schedule, I think that's good. And individually, you can decide if it feels right for you guys to talk more often. And maybe there's one contact via Skype or in person or whatever you want to do. But then in between, maybe there is an email commitment, or you're going to text each other on a Monday. Or, I mean, to me, I would try to make this as fun as possible and as engaging as possible. I mean, there's so many different ways to stay engaged. Like every Monday morning, I'm going to send my mentor a great quote, or my mentee a great quote, text message. You know, there's just so many things like that that you could do. So I think at least one that is a structured call per month. And then you can decide what's the gravy to that. What are the other little things that you could do in between to stay engaged via text or email or, you know, things like that.
Great. Donna, do you have any other thoughts on the amount of communication?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Celia said about the structure. There should be some sort of, I think, a monthly kind of structured connection point, but then it has to be, there has to be wiggle room, you know, there has to be a little organic for connection points in between. But for example, you know, last fall, my mentee, you know, with her fall season, and they had a lot of travel, so it was just kind of like, you know, we would schedule, you know, we would schedule month to month, but it would be, you know, it might be 6 weeks, it might be just because, you know, just because of life and different things. But I think you should try to make a scheduled, you know, structured once a month. I think that would be best.
Okay. Once a month. All right. So after the year's over, there's a year-long commitment. But once it's over, what's sort of the appropriate, if there are any, what are the appropriate guidelines to the relationship after that? And Celia, I'll start with you, but what do they do after the first year's over? Oh, we may have lost Celia for just a second. Donna, we'll switch that question to you. Oh, no.
Who are you
Celia.
starting with? Because you chopped out on me.
Okay, I'm going to start with you. Yeah, I think that we had a temporary disconnect. So anyway, what after the 1-year relationship, what's next?
For Celia or for me?
For Celia, sorry.
Okay.
I think that's really what you decide when you get to the end of that year. I think it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
The different mentoring relationships. I mean, ideally, I think it would be great if they continued on with some form of a structure and a relationship to stay in touch. But I don't know what that would completely look like for every individual mentor and mentee as they move through this. Because, quite honestly, some people are going to be really connected with their mentor in this process.
Yeah.
Some people might not. So it's really hard to kind of predict what that relationship's going to be like at the end of the year. That's just my sense.
Okay, and Donna?
Yeah, I mean, it's I agree. It's going to depend on the people. You know, I would hope if people are involved in this, you know, it's about people development, and so the relationship would continue, and you would check in with each other every once in a while, just like any relationship or you know, set of friends would. But obviously, there's not going to be this, you know, huge structure, potentially. You know, but like I'm gonna you know, every once in a while check in on my mentee from last year, just because I feel like I'm still on the journey with her, even though it's not like in this official capacity. But that's, again, just that's out of who I am as a person. Like, I love to grow people, and so, you know, like Celia said, it's gonna depend on the individual relationships.
Okay. All right, so that kind of wraps up the formal questions. I've written down words like transparency, vulnerability, advocate, empowerment, initiative, being committed, proactive, and then Celia, a great quote: behaviors will always reflect our highest values. So these are amazing tips, and ones that we will be very happy to pass on to our group here. Are there any final comments from the two of you to sort of wrap up the call?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I mean, I would just say, you know, have fun. Have fun with this relationship, you know. I mean, it's and laugh and show your humanity, you know, and be real, because nobody's perfect, and I think walking through life with somebody else and having those serious moments, but also those moments of laughter is healthy, and I think we all need that.
Okay. And Celia?
And I think that I would just kind of build on what Donna just said and just say what an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
And just to see what an incredible opportunity that it is. And as you're working with this mentor, doesn't mean that you don't have other people in your life that you would
Right.
consider mentors. So, you know, looking for, you know, for me, my background at the NCAA Women Coaches Academy, we work with women coaches of all sports in the classroom together. And what that's done for me is helped me realize when you reach outside of your sport and your world, how incredibly wonderful and juicy that is, and how many people in your department that can also outside. I really hope coaches will start seeing the value of reaching outside their sport for the other people in your department that can also give you advice or help you, that are right there in front of you, along with building this mentoring relationship. And what a great opportunity is. And I think so much of what builds relationships is just asking questions.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, just ask questions. Ask for help. You know, you in the world of coaching.
Okay. Well, thank you both again for everything. You're obviously the reason we went to you with the expertise in the subject. Just for everybody's information, this video chat was recorded, and we will send it out today to everybody to reference as they go through their mentorship process. And I'll be following up with Donna and Celia on a number of discussions we had here today. So thank you both again. Amazing pieces of advice. And let us know if there's anything we can do to answer questions or further provide you guidance. But good luck to your relationships, and I hope this helped. Thanks so much.
All right.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.